So today we're going to be trying something different. Now, normally I would just have words on the screen pop up and let it be as simple as that. But recently it was recommended to me that maybe I should add in my voice or maybe some form of text-to-speech, which is a good idea. It's a good recommendation because it adds more of a personal touch to a channel, you know? So today's video is going to be involving my voice, and we'll see how that goes, and hopefully you all enjoy this type of video format. Be sure to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments just to see if this form of presentation for the video is what you all prefer. So let's go ahead and jump right into the video and let's see how you like it. So since today in this video I'm going to be trying something different, I might as well include something, well, the topic of the video be something that I've been wanting to do. So today we're going to be doing a my favorite build or my favorite setup video today. As in which blood code is my favorite, what I like to use with it, and what I mostly use it for. So let's go ahead and dive into that and let's see. So let's go ahead and take a look at the setup. We're going to go ahead and view here. I like to use the Ishtar or Ishtar. Hopefully I am pronouncing it right. Hopefully. This is the blood code that I prefer to use because it has a high mind, some good strength, some alright dexterity, and some pretty good fortitude so that you can dodge around and avoid damage as much as you can. Now, my favorite thing about this blood code is the Deliverance passive. When an ally takes fatal damage, their HP is reduced to 1 and you take the remaining damage. Now, you can pretty much tell what I mostly use this for. This is mostly used for co-op, since co-oping is mostly what I like to do in this game. I like to bring it along just to either save the host or potentially save the AI partner that they bring along. So this passive is actually pretty nice because it works as intended. If your ally dies, it leaves them at 1 health, and the remaining damage that should have killed them is reflected to you. It's a good passive to help your host survive, but you need to be very careful with it as well, because sometimes your host can get hit really hard, and sometimes you can lose as much as like 1/4 of your health to more than half gone. So it's a bit of a coin flip of a blood code. Sometimes when you co-op, you kind of gotta hope that they can not take too much damage. Just your passive is more or less a last resort, kind of like a reinforcement to help the host stay alive. Now we can go ahead and move on to the rest of the setup. I use Health Stimulant. It's just good to use to increase maximum HP. Just, make sure I have more health to lose if the host dies. I can save them with the Deliverance passive. Swift Destruction, just for, the fact that I have quick mobility. I can get some extra damage with my weapon and some extra damage with my spells as well. Because if you didn't know, Swift Destruction, when you have quick mobility, gives you 20% damage, and this also applies to spells and any damage source, I think, besides status effects. If you have normal mobility, it is 10%, so Swift Destruction is still good to run even if you have normal mobility. So overall, Swift Destruction is a fantastic passive, which you're going to be getting this from the Hephaestus blood code, which you get from Ren after reaching the Crypt Spire. The rest of the setup here, we have Revenant's Ambition, which you're going to be getting from the Queen's Breath blood code, which you get from doing the bad ending, well, specifically not restoring the successor of the breath is Vestiges, which is little old Nicola. Now what this does, it says pretty clearly that it allows you to equip heavier weapons and blood veils, meaning that it increases your maximum carry weight by 30, if I recall. Let me see. Yes, it increases it by 30, which is pretty nice because it allows me to have quick mobility with my current weapon, which is the Argent Wolfblade Devourer. Overall, pretty good if you want to try and maintain your quick mobility. Oh, and before I forget to mention, you can get Health Stimulant from the Warrior blood code, which you also find in the Crypt Spire. So now we move on to the weapons here, which the Argent Wolfblade Devourer is my main weapon to use. largely because it has low wielding requirements and it's not that heavy. So you often find that a good amount of caster builds or even dex builds use the Argent Wolf Blade because it's just good. It's just one of those all-around weapons that you can get. You get it fairly early. You can farm a Argent Wolf soldier, well, a Cerberus soldier, in the dried up trenches near the regen activation and the Seraph robes. You can farm him for a while in hopes to get this weapon, and this weapon won't fail you. It's just pretty darn reliable all around for both melee builds and caster builds. Now, I run the Devour transformation because Devour increases the drain rating, which you get the Devour from Mia. She has the Artemis Chrome, which increases your drain rating. It'll increase the damage of your weapon, but the extra drain rating to get more I-Core per hit is pretty valuable when it comes down to being a caster of any kind. So next we go ahead and move on to the second weapon, which is the Damarung with the fortification on it. It's a little heavy, but that's okay. It's more of a utility thing or a blocking tool, considering it has decent blocking stats and a good amount of stamina reduction. But it's mostly used for the fact that its heavy attack will grant you I believe it's Iron Will buff, which grants you a 25% damage resistance, which is pretty nice for a caster. So if you like using the weapon or you like the buff, then you'll just like having this weapon along with you. So we're going to move on to the Veil, which is pretty straightforward actually. It's the Noble Silver fortification. I believe it has the highest in stat light, which is the gift amount down below, which you can see. If I recall, yes, it does have the highest in the game for light. I could be wrong, but if I do recall, it is the highest. Not only that, but it's super lightweight, even with the fortification on it. It's just its defensives are a little low, so that's why you're going to want to maintain the quick mobility so you don't get hit as much, because your defenses are not all that high. So if you get hit by something, you are most definitely going to feel it. But you get the highest light, so I say it's quite a fair trade-off. Just keep yourself at the quick mobility. Try not to take too much damage. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the spells that I like to use, which I prefer to use the spikes. I know, the barrages technically are a lot better, because when you cram the barrage in something's face, it does a crap ton of DPS. I do understand that. But I prefer to use these on my EOS build, because they do a lot more damage. Now, I bet you're wondering, why do you prefer to use the spikes over the barrages? Well, this build largely has to deal with me not getting hit and not being too up an enemy's face, as to where with EOS, when I carry the barrages, I am just throwing this barrage in something's face. As to where with Ishtar, you have less health than EOS, combined with the less vitality, you're going to take a bit more damage. So how can I cast spells with some good light and not take as much damage or not get punished by something when I try to cast a barrage? The spikes. The spikes don't do bad damage. They do pretty fair damage for their cast. But not only that, they're fast and they're long range, meaning that you don't have to get too close to something to get the damage in. You just chuck a spike at something's face in long range, so that you both get some good damage and you're lowering down the potential of you taking damage from something when trying to cast a barrage. Overall, that's why I prefer the elemental spikes on this build, just to keep myself at a respectable distance from the enemy and also be able to dish out some fair damage with a form of cast. Yes, before I forget, you're going to be getting Frost Spike from the Hermes Blood Code, which you get from Davis. You're going to be getting Flame Spike from the Hunter Blood Code, which you find in the Ruin City. You're going to be getting Lightning Spike from the Astrea Blood Code, which you get from having the not pre-order, but I guess the Deluxe Edition White Mia. You can get her Blood Code, and then you can get the Lightning Spike from it. And a Blood Spike you're going to be getting from the Dark Knight Blood Code, which you get from killing the Gilded Hunter. Move on to the last four things, which the first thing I use is the Elemental Wall buff, which you get from the EOS Blood Code. It temporarily increases resistance to all elements for you and your partner, which in short term it gives a lot of elemental resistance in all stats. Let me give you an example. We go over here to our stats. We have a pretty meh amount of elemental resistances, and then we apply elemental wall stats. Oh yeah. Immune to ice damage, immune to lightning damage, almost immune to blood and fire. So as you can tell, the elemental wall buff is pretty strong, which, since it's for you and your partner, it lends more to the support playstyle. Next, moving on to Regenerator, which is also from the EOS Blood Code. Increases the amount of HP healed by regeneration for both you and your partner, which is pretty good. Again, lends more to the support playstyle. If you can make your host's regeneration a bit stronger, I say that's pretty good. Now, I believe I already have a video on my channel which explains how much Regenerator increases the regen. It's not a lot, but this buff does last a long while, so just a little bit of extra regen power isn't too bad for anyone. Again, you're going to be getting this from the EOS Blood Code. Next, we're moving on to a pretty familiar buff, which is Bridge to Glory. Really, like, a lot of people use this, which you can't really blame them. It's a lot better than Adrenaline. It temporarily boosts attack power, so even knowing you're a mage, well, mage or any DPS build, with this build it's more of a support base, so if I can have some way to dish out some pretty good melee damage without having to be a pure melee DPS build, that's pretty good. Now, how much does it increase? It's pretty high actually. Let's go ahead and give it a gander. My pretty high, so the stats may be a little higher than usual. 734 on that, and we go ahead and use Bridge to Glory. Goes to 1441, so Bridge to Glory is pretty strong. That's why a lot of people use it, which is perfectly understandable. It helps this build, even though it's mostly just support. It helps to dish out some good melee damage, so it isn't a complete wet noodle. And lastly here we have Sympathetic Wound, which is also from the EOS Blood Code. As you can tell, we really like EOS here, considering that all 4 of these are from the EOS Blood Code. Sympathetic Wound is going to be consuming a large amount of your own health to restore an ally, which also applies to the revive. So if you do revive an ally with it, they're going to be revived with a good amount more health than they usually would than compared to the restorative offering. So it's pretty good for the support playstyle, but do be careful, it takes a really large amount of your health away, so use it with care. So that should be just about everything when it comes down to the build, the buffs, passives, blood code, everything, the weapons, the veil. So again, this is my favorite build to use. It's the more of a co-op support playstyle. So if you're looking for that type of playstyle, this might be what you're looking for. If it's not, then that's okay. There's plenty of things to try out. Everybody is to their own, of course. Hopefully, if you do use it, maybe you'll enjoy it. We'll see. Well, in all, that should just about cover it with this video. Hopefully you all enjoy this type of format with the video, with actually me using my voice than words popping up on the screen. Again, do leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments, just so I get some general feedback and help understand what is preferred by the viewer base. This video is pretty fun to make, so I hope you all enjoyed it, and well, I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.